As promised, I'm back with another brilliant chess game by Mikhail Tal, the magician from Riga, one of the most loved chess players of all times, one of the most brilliant attacking players of all times. And in this game, we expect nothing less than that. Here is a great attacking display from Tal. So, Tal playing black here. This was played in 1957 against Bukhuti. So, here's a great game. What would you play here as Tal? Tal is black. So, go ahead. Guess the move. I'd like you to guess the move because Tal's moves are rather simple. You know what kind of sacrifices he can make. And if you do not know, this is going to be a great experience. So, let's have a look at Tal's move in this position. Basically, Tal realized that White's pieces are kind of misplaced over here, so he can try to provoke his opponent, and that he does with knight to g4. The knight just basically tries to provoke White either to push for f3 or h3. In both cases, that will create some weaknesses around his king. That's very important. At the same time, this opens up some possibilities of bringing a queen over here just to trying to put more pressure, or maybe the knight can also go back to e5 and place himself on a very good square. All of this can be played, but his opponent fell for the trap and played h3. Now this creates some serious weaknesses, and you know Tal, if you know Tal, by the way, you know that he's not going to bring back his knight. He's going to go for it, and here comes the first move, the first brilliant move by Tal. Knight takes on f2. This is a great start, a great attacking start, and it never really stops. The attack is so irresistible, it goes right through the end, and we will have a beautiful mate in the end. So let's have a look at it. King takes it. What's the next move? We bring the queen in. Now queen h4, check. The king has to step back. King goes to f1. By the way, king to g1 would be a huge mistake. Rook over here, not supported. There's some disharmony in the white's position. Tal quickly spots the disharmony, and he would have won the game pretty easily after this. So basically, white is forced now. From this point on, white will be forced pretty much. He has to go back to f1. How do you continue the attack? You bring more and more pieces. And what is the move for that? Bishop to d4. Basically, there's a threat over here, a big threat of checkmate over here. Again, forcing white's options. White has to defend that square, and one of the only ways to do that is, probably this is the only way, not one of the, probably the only option is to play knight to d1, protecting the f2 square. And now, what should white play? Again, it's all about bringing more and more attacking pieces. Tal here plays a great move, just queen takes h3. This is simply spectacular. His opponent did not even see this move coming. His opponent was totally surprised. What's the threat? The threat is very simple. Queen to h1 would actually be a checkmate over here. I'm gonna make that red. There you go. That would be a checkmate because of the bishop, and that's a serious threat. Can't the queen be captured? No, not at all, because then we will have a Boden's mate with bishop takes h3. That's a beautiful checkmate. That's a beautiful checkmate. When it happens in the game, I mean, we have seen this checkmate a lot of times in the puzzles, but when it happens in a game, that's really beautiful. So, of course, that did not happen in the game. After Tal captured on h3, his opponent defended with bishop to f3, trying to make some square for the king so the king can run away. But Tal obviously doesn't chase the king, but rather tries to cut off the enemy lines. So here he plays queen to h2, a very clever move. Just maybe the queen can kind of sneak in with queen g1 or queen g3, trying to control the dark squares. It's a very clever move. Now white plays knight to e3, again trying to make some room for the king. Probably the king can escape like this onto d1, but of course black doesn't go for that. Here he plays f5, directly attacking the main weakness. The knight on e3, as you can see, is vulnerable. You cannot even touch the pawn, because then it's simply a move like rook takes e3 or bishop takes e3 would win a piece, and that's why that is not playable. In the position, knight to c4 was played, but this creates another problem. Tal now captures on e4. This just opens up lines. You can see the rook's line has been opened up. The bishop has been opened up. Something can happen. So captures. Whenever you try to attack your king, opponent's king, remember always to open up lines. If you have bishop, especially, you should try to open up the lines and go for the king. No matter if it costs you pieces, it costs you material, doesn't really matter. All that matters on the chessboard is checkmate. That ends the game, right? So here we go. Bishop to a6, adding one more defender, putting constant pressure on white. Basically, white doesn't really have too much of free choice here. You can see knight is under pressure. If this knight gets captured, then either the queen has to capture or this knight. In both cases, the queen can kind of sneak in. Also, there is a lot of pressure on the e file, so anything can happen. White's position looks very vulnerable and overloaded, so he just plays a sensible move. He tries to defend, he tries to be solid. He plays bishop to f3, and here comes another brilliant move. Rook to e5. Tal constantly brings all of his pieces in the attack. Now the idea obviously is you're putting a lot of pressure on the d5 pawn. At the same time, you're welcoming the other rook to come in the game and put even more pressure on the e3 knight. That is the point, right? If this knight on e3 moves away, let's say a really bad move like knight to g4. Let me just demonstrate what happens if this knight moves. There is queen to g1, an instant checkmate. Thanks to this rook, thanks to this bishop, this king is gone. And that's the reason the knight can't really move, and black is exactly monetizing on that and bringing more and more attackers on that square. So here we go. Rook to a3 played. Now there is rook a to e8, putting more pressure on the vulnerable e3 square. All right, let's have a look at this. Now bishop to d2 played, and this is the point where basically white's position is so bad that his defense is going to collapse. And can you find the move that Tal crashes through, uses to cash through into this position? The move is knight takes on d5. It's really a typical of really great players that whenever they attack with all of their strength, all of their pieces. You can see the only piece that was not in the game was the knight on c7, but after this the knight is very much a very active piece, and this forces a lot of options. In the game, bishop takes is played. That's a check to the king. But what happens if knight takes? Well, the knight can't really move. The problem is queen to g1 would be an instant checkmate, and that's the reason the knight has to stay over there. So he captures that with the bishop. Now we play rook takes. Again, knight can't really capture because of queen g1 checkmate. There's a constant threat of checkmate everywhere, and that's the reason here he has to play king to e2, trying to run away. But he comes out of one threat but enters another one. There's a pin over here, and this will actually be the reason for the end of the game. Tal just finishes off in style. He takes on e3. Now you can see this knight being pinned to the king over here can't really move. The king can't capture this bishop, and so he basically has to capture with the rook. Capturing with the bishop again is detrimental because queen takes would be a checkmate. Again, there are checkmate threats all over the board. Tal is attacking with all of his pieces from all the sides, and white really has the limited options. So rook takes, only move. What should white play now? What should black play now? Black plays the last move, bishop takes c4. After this move, white just resigned over here. This is game over. What's the point behind this? Well, the king is in check. If the bishop is captured, then we have a very simple checkmate. Queen takes g2. The king has to move. The only square for the king is to go over here. And now here comes a very pretty checkmate on d2. That was a really beautiful attacking display by Tal. He never really stopped. He kept attacking until there was so much of pressure on white's position that white's defenses just collapsed and white was totally destroyed. So that was a great game by Mikhail Tal. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel. More videos will be there, and we're going to cover more games of Mikhail Tal. So until next time.